Hello, dear Libra. This is not just a horoscope reading. It's a divine alert. If you're hearing these words right now, it's because the universe chose this exact moment to bring you clarity. Something or someone has been energetically tampering with your peace, and today, you're going to understand exactly why. Ask yourself, have you been waking up feeling heavier, even after a full night's rest? Have your thoughts felt foreign, clouded, or like they don't fully belong to you? Have you noticed a strange resistance in your spirit, a soft, haunting dissonance, even when everything seems fine on the surface? Libra, this is not your imagination. Your inner temple, that's sacred, invisible space where your soul finds balance, has been compromised. There is an energy that entered without your permission. A shadow that slipped in while you were simply trying to keep the peace. And it didn't come by accident, it came because someone paid for it to reach you. Someone whose intentions do not match your light. But what they didn't count on was that you are being guarded. And not just by chance or coincidence. You are protected by Archangel Michael, the divine warrior, the keeper of truth, the guardian of those who walk the path of justice with a pure heart. Michael is here. He's been circling you, waiting for the moment when you're ready to reclaim your inner court, your balance, your sovereignty, your light. Scripture teaches us, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And this reading will show you exactly why that is true and how you can return to your sacred center. Let me take a moment to thank you deeply for being here. Every like, every thoughtful comment, every new subscriber to Zodiac Whisper Tarot doesn't just support the channel, it expands the field of light we are building together. Your presence fuels this sacred space. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this journey. And Libra, I say this with full sincerity, you'll want to stay until the very last moment today. Because what the universe is about to reveal may completely reshape the way you've been seeing your past and your power. So tell me, what was it that brought you here today, beautiful Libra? What truth are you ready to finally face and release? Go ahead and share in the comments. And if you feel this message reaching the quiet corners of your soul, write this now as a sacred decree. I choose the protection of light. I restore the balance within me. Sometimes, what disturbs our peace doesn't come with noise. It arrives quietly like a draft through a barely open window, subtle enough that we don't notice it at first, but powerful enough to shift everything inside us. Libra, your sacred gift is balance. When that equilibrium is disrupted, even the smallest imbalance feels like a deep internal quake. You start sensing things before they can be explained. A pressure behind your eyes. A restless tension in your chest. A strange uneasiness, even when everything around you appears perfectly fine. That's not random. That's your intuitive body picking up signals your logical mind hasn't caught up to yet. This inner unrest isn't always rooted in your own experiences. Sometimes, it's the emotional residue of others, especially when you've unknowingly left the door open. Energetically, this door might be a thought, a memory, or a moment of doubt. That's all it takes for the weight of someone else's envy, resentment, or unresolved tension to latch onto your emotional space. You, Libra, are ruled by Venus, the planet of connection, beauty, and harmony. But that same openness to love can also become a channel for disharmony if not guarded wisely. The reverse Two of Pentacles reminds us that balance isn't about doing more to compensate, it's about simplifying, setting clearer priorities, and not letting others' chaos dictate your flow. When this card appears, it gently reflects how easily we can stretch ourselves thin trying to make everything look okay, even when inside we feel overwhelmed. Add to that the Nine of Swords, the classic sign of restless nights and lingering thoughts that won't let go. You may be absorbing worries that don't even belong to you, simply because someone energetically linked themselves to your field, consciously or unconsciously. Then comes the Seven of Wands, your subtle awareness that something's not right, your inner resistance that rises to defend your peace even when you don't know exactly who or what you're defending against. This isn't about paranoia. It's about inner intelligence. Spiritual instinct. Your soul has built-in boundaries that begin to glow red when something in your field doesn't match your vibration. And yet, because you value peace and diplomacy, you might ignore those warnings, hoping they'll resolve themselves. The current lunar phase illuminating your 7th house is no coincidence. In astrology, the 7th house governs partnerships, enemies, and mirrored energy. This moonlight casts shadows in places where you might have been too polite, too trusting, or simply too tired to notice betrayal brewing beneath the surface. It brings hidden dynamics to light, exposing where someone else's intentions don't align with your truth. These revelations may feel uncomfortable, but they're a form of gentle intervention. They arrive not to harm you, but to liberate you. This is your cue to pause. To return to yourself. Consider a simple self-practice each night, 5 quiet minutes before bed, eyes closed, with your hands over your heart. Visualize a soft, white light forming a gentle sphere around your body, breathing in safety, breathing out anything that doesn't belong to you. That's not fantasy, it's energy hygiene. Just like you brush your teeth before bed, you can cleanse your inner atmosphere with just a few breaths and intention. And if this resonates, if you felt someone watching, someone resenting, someone draining you without even being physically present, please know this: nothing that was sent to disturb you has more power than your choice to return to your center. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You only need clarity and courage. Protecting your energy isn't an act of fear, it's an act of love. And sometimes, the most graceful thing you can do is to simply close the door. Not in anger, but in peace. Because when you do, you make room for something far more sacred to enter. And so we arrive at a moment that many don't like to admit: the quiet suspicion that someone's actions or even their unspoken thoughts may be impacting us more than we realize. Libra, your heart is naturally wired for fairness, for beauty, for the peaceful middle ground. But when the scale tips silently, not from your own choices but from someone else's shadow, it can feel deeply confusing. This isn't about blame or creating drama. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that not all connections are built on love, and not all attention is benevolent. You may be sensing that someone is holding on to you for reasons that are not rooted in care. It could be an old friend who resents your growth, a past partner who struggles to let go, or even someone who envies your light but hides it under compliments. The truth is, the Libra archetype is magnetic. You're ruled by Venus, so people are naturally drawn to your charm, your balance, your beauty, not just in looks but in the way you make others feel safe and seen. And sometimes, they become attached to that energy in ways that cross unseen lines. The Queen of Wands reversed reveals a figure often feminine or dominant in emotional influence who once may have inspired you but now operates from a place of insecurity or jealousy. This is someone who doesn't want to let you shine unless they feel they're glowing next to you. Their love, if it was ever present, comes with invisible conditions. The Five of Swords shows us the impact. They may have, 1, something in the past to fight, your silence, your time, but the cost was your peace. And now you carry the burden of their unresolved emotions. Then comes the Four of Pentacles reversed, quietly illuminating the role of fear in all this. Sometimes, we let people stay in our energy field not because they deserve to, but because we're afraid of the consequences of letting them go. We fear disappointing them, being misunderstood, or worse, being alone. But here's a truth that many forget: your well-being is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not rejection. It's a declaration of what you're no longer willing to tolerate. In numerology, the number 6 speaks to harmony and unconditional love, but that lesson doesn't just apply to how you treat others. It also asks how you love yourself. Do you protect your peace with the same devotion you offer others? Do you honor your intuition even when it feels inconvenient? The answer to those questions shapes your next chapter. Now is the time for conscious release. If someone's energy feels heavy, confusing, or overwhelming, even if they're not physically present, your body knows. Your thoughts know. That's why I invite you to write their name on paper, not with anger, but with clarity. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to explain. This is for you. Then, gently practice a cord-cutting visualization. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and picture a cord however it appears to you connecting you to that person. When you're ready, imagine a soft blade of light severing it. Feel yourself returning to your own space. Not out of revenge, but out of release. Remember, sometimes walking away is not the end of a relationship, it's the beginning of self-respect. Even the scriptures remind us that not everything that comes toward you is meant to stay. You were not created to carry the emotional debris of others. You were designed to move with grace, to love wisely, and to choose freedom. Let this be that choice. Quiet, powerful, and entirely your own. There are moments when protection doesn't arrive with noise or fireworks, it comes quietly, like a soft shift in the atmosphere, a breath of clarity you didn't expect, or the subtle feeling of being watched over without fully knowing why. Libra, with your refined senses and gentle awareness, you've likely felt this already. Maybe it was in the form of a deep exhale after an anxious day. Maybe it showed up in the peace that returned after a night of unease. That wasn't coincidence. That was presence. You see, the universe never forces itself upon us. Even the most powerful forms of protection require permission and invitation from within. Archangel Michael's guidance, though not bound by physical form, often emerges in the language of sensation. You may have felt it in a sudden moment of stillness, in the way your body calms when you finally speak your truth, or in the chill that runs through you when you step back from something harmful. It is in those flashes of inner knowing that support begins to anchor itself around you. But protection becomes fully activated when you consciously allow it. That's the key. Just as you wouldn't open your home to anyone without knocking, your energetic field also has boundaries, and you are the one who sets them. This is where simple acts become powerful rituals. Placing a white candle and a small bowl of salt water beside your bed may sound symbolic, but there is great strength in symbolism. White, the color of purity and clarity, aligns with your current need to reset the energetic atmosphere around you. Salt has long been known even scientifically for its cleansing properties. When placed near you, it absorbs what doesn't serve. These aren't spells. These are signals. Signals to your mind, your body, your energy, that you are choosing clarity. Choosing safety. Choosing sovereignty. Writing the sentence, I call in light. I release what is not mine, and placing it beneath your pillow isn't a magical solution. It's a declaration. A personal covenant. You're not asking someone else to come fix everything, you're stepping into your role as the guardian of your own peace. And in doing so, you make it easier for divine support to surround you. Because nothing in life can support us unless we first believe we deserve to be supported. It's a gentle reminder of what many sacred teachings have whispered across generations. What you bind on the inside becomes your truth on the outside. There's no need for loud resistance or dramatic gestures. Sometimes, it's the quiet decisions, the candle lit in solitude, the words written in your own handwriting, the pause before bed when you choose to reconnect with your breath that signal the biggest turning points. Now, Libra, think of this not as a ritual of fear, but of restoration. You're not reacting to an enemy. You're returning to yourself. The balance you crave doesn't come from the outside world behaving, it comes from the choices you make to create peace within. When you protect your own energy with intention, you create an atmosphere where chaos cannot linger. That's not avoidance. That's wisdom. Even the softest hearts deserve to feel safe. And if this message resonates, I invite you to say it aloud or write it down in the comments. Not for me, but for you, I have opened my heart to protection. I choose to be surrounded by light. Let this be your moment of choosing differently. Your quiet yes to something bigger than fear. A decision made not in desperation, but in calm, loving certainty that your peace matters and that it starts with you. It's often the oldest wounds, the ones we thought we buried, the ones we learned to hide so well, that end up opening the quietest doors to what doesn't belong. And Libra, your nature is so refined, so finely attuned to the energy of harmony, that even the smallest emotional imbalance within you can ripple outward, inviting in confusion, conflict, or energies that are not truly yours. The truth is, some of what's currently draining you isn't just coming from the present moment, it's echoing from the past. A past you've tried to move on from, but that might still be living in the softest parts of you. The reversed Queen of Cups often speaks of a maternal wound, either from a mother figure or someone who once held your emotional trust. This figure may have loved you in a way that wasn't whole, perhaps giving care mixed with criticism, love mixed with guilt. And over time, this taught you to love others more than you were taught to love yourself. It taught you to offer peace even when you were aching, to give without asking, and to silence your needs for the sake of keeping others comfortable. But your silence has a cost. And it's not one you should keep paying. The Ten of Wands tells us what that cost has become: burden. Carrying weight that isn't yours. Taking on responsibilities that were never meant to be yours to begin with. Emotional caregiving, managing people's reactions, always trying to hold the balance for everyone else even when your arms are shaking. You've likely told yourself, "It's fine, I can handle it," more times than you can count. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Then comes the High Priestess, whispering a truth you've always known but may have avoided speaking aloud. You see through things. You feel when something is off. You notice the emotional climate in the room before anyone says a word. But your gift of perception can become a source of pain when it's paired with silence. When you know something isn't right, but you choose peace over expression, you unintentionally allow the wound to deepen. From an astrological perspective, Libra is now moving through the influence of Chiron, a planetary archetype that governs our deepest spiritual injuries. And for you, that wound has often been connected to the pressure of being seen as perfect, of keeping it all together, of being the one others can depend on emotionally. But here's what no one may have told you: you're not here to be flawless. You're here to be free. And freedom begins with truth. The law of attraction reminds us that unspoken pain attracts repeating patterns. If you've ever wondered why the same kind of emotional dynamic keeps showing up, we people expect you to carry their weight, or why you attract those who need fixing, it may be because your inner child is still replaying a scene from long ago, hoping someone will finally choose you first. The shift begins when you do. So, take a moment, Libra. Write a letter not to send, but to release. Write to the person or memory that still lingers in your nervous system. Say what your younger self never got to say. Then, when you're ready, burn the letter and watch the smoke carry your words upward, no longer stuck inside you. Let your healing be creative. Paint your boundaries. Dance your release. Thread your voice through words or melody or movement. You don't need permission to feel whole. You don't need a perfect ending to close the chapter. You only need to acknowledge that your heart deserves more than the patterns you inherited. You were never meant to carry the hurt of others as your own. And today, you don't have to anymore. Sometimes, the most powerful shift happens not when the world changes around us, but when we quietly decide to come home to ourselves. After everything you've seen, felt, and endured, Libra, there is a deeper truth beginning to rise within you, one that no longer waits for permission to be honored. The weight of trying to stay balanced for everyone else, of reading between the lines to avoid conflict, of shrinking yourself to keep peace, it's all led you here, to this moment where you realize, no one can truly harm you when you stop abandoning yourself. The energy you're stepping into now is not about defense, it's about clarity. The Judgment card invites you to look back not with regret, but with wisdom. Every misstep, every misjudged connection, every time you gave too much or stayed too long, it wasn't failure. It was feedback. You were learning not who others are, but who you are when you forget your worth. And now, with this card, you're being called not to blame but to rise. To listen for the inner voice that never stopped whispering the truth, even when it was drowned out by noise or doubt. The moon then walks in, not as a warning, but as a mirror. It reminds us that illusions often wear the mask of comfort. That sometimes, we cling to the familiar because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown. But illusion requires energy to maintain. And the moment you stop feeding it, when you let go of trying to fix what was never yours to fix, the veil lifts. You begin to see things as they are, not as you hoped they would be. And in that clarity, freedom begins. With the world, you step out of survival cycles. You return to center. This card doesn't just speak of endings, it speaks of earned beginnings. Of honoring the long, spiral journey of your growth, and finally letting yourself celebrate how far you've come. You're not who you were when this started. You're stronger, softer, wiser. And that version of you is not waiting for external validation to feel complete. Then comes the Three of Cups, a reminder that joy is not a reward you have to earn, but a right you already hold. After all the heaviness, all the quiet battles no one saw, this card is your permission to reconnect with joy, not in a performative way, but in ways that nourish the real you. Spend time with people who don't drain you. Laugh, even when you feel broken. Celebrate your milestones, even if no one else claps. You don't need a perfect life to feel worthy of peace. Numerology tells us that the number 9 marks the final chapter of a soul cycle. You've carried enough. You've tried enough. And now, it's not about pushing harder, it's about softening into what you've learned. The law of attraction reminds us that truth doesn't always feel easy, but it always sets you free. When you choose your truth, even quietly, the universe responds by clearing space for what aligns with it. And nothing aligned with truth will ever require you to shrink. You can support this shift with gentle daily choices. Drink more water. Hydration helps move stuck energy. Turn off your phone for an hour a day, not to escape the world, but to return to yourself. Practice saying no to what doesn't feel right, not with guilt, but with grounded grace. These small acts are not just habits, they are declarations of self-respect. And every time you choose yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. So if you've been waiting for a sign, let this be it. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's sacred. If you've stayed with me until now, dear Libra, then perhaps something in your heart has quietly said yes, yes to clarity, yes to healing, yes to choosing peace over pleasing. And if so, I want to remind you, that is no small thing. That soft yes is where every transformation begins. It doesn't matter how long you've carried the weight, how many times you silenced your truth, or how often you tried to keep the balance for others while losing it within yourself. What matters is that you are here now, listening, feeling, awakening. And that matters more than you know. You see, no one can take your light when you remember how to protect it. No energy, no influence, no past connection can truly stay attached to you when you stand in your own center with gentleness and intention. That's the real power of Libra. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention. It simply is. It invites harmony, not through control, but through embodiment. And that, Libra, is why you are so deeply needed in this world right now. You were never meant to fight battles that didn't belong to you. You were never meant to lose sleep over what you were never responsible for. And you are certainly not here to hold peace for everyone else while your own soul remains unheard. This moment, this space is yours to return to yourself. Fully. Without guilt. Without shame. Just presence. Let me ask you gently, what is one thing you've been carrying that is no longer yours to hold? And what would shift in your life if you placed it down today, not with force, but with grace? There is a quiet revolution that happens when you start choosing yourself in small ways. Drinking more water. Logging off for an hour. Saying no when it feels wrong. Listening to your breath. Declaring your energy. Every one of those acts whispers to the universe, I remember who I am. And in return, the universe moves to support you in ways you can't yet imagine. So, If you felt the energy shift throughout this reading, I invite you to make it real, not just with your mind, but with your words. Write this in the comments as a sacred declaration. I choose to return to myself. I choose powerful peace. That one sentence may be the doorway to an entirely new chapter. And if this message resonated with you, if even one sentence lit something within you, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need this kind of gentle truth today. Your support is what allows Zodiac Whisper Tarot to keep creating these sacred spaces where clarity meets compassion, and healing begins with honesty. Thank you, truly, from my heart to yours, for being here. For feeling. For choosing your light even when it's quiet. You don't need to win in order to be worthy. You only need to be true to what your heart has always known. And trust me, Libra, the moment you stand still long enough to hear it is the moment everything starts to change.